You ever get that feeling like life's just shifted, everything's kind of different now, big or small, we all go through transitions. What's one that sticks out for you, something that really changed things?
Yeah, it's part of who we are, isn't it? Those turning points. Today we're looking at a pretty unique one, an astronaut coming back to Earth after a long time up in space.
And not just a quick trip, we're talking 159 days on the International Space Station, living in a whole other reality. But what I find fascinating is how even this wild experience coming back down to Earth can teach us about handling change here.
Totally. It goes way beyond the astronaut stuff. We're getting a first-hand look at how someone adapts to a totally different environment, then has to readjust back to their old life. It's physical, emotional, the whole thing.
Our mission today is to break down this astronaut's journey home. What can we learn from it, about dealing with our own transitions, whether it's planned out, like starting a new job, or totally unexpected?
Right. It's about finding those universal lessons.
Okay, so let's start with saying goodbye to space. It's kind of surprising how attached someone could get to what is basically a fancy metal box floating in orbit.
Well, you think about it. Humans are adaptable. We form attachments, especially when we're in high-stress, isolated places. The astronaut even called the ISS Mommy's Space House. It was home, in a way.
Mommy's space house. That's kind of sweet. But also, there was this huge pull towards Earth, family, friends, green trees. I mean, even good coffee and fresh air, things we take for granted.
Absolutely. It shows our basic human need for connection for those sensory experiences. There's a quote from astronaut Don Pettit that sums it up. He said he'd be happy to live and work in space forever if I could have my family up there with me.
Wow, powerful stuff. And our astronaut takes it a step further, imagining their family in zero-G, like their partner flipping effortlessly, their kid making molten glass sculptures that just float around, even their fluffy cat, tail drifting through the station.
It's so vivid, right? You can really feel that longing for home. But at the same time, there's this deep sense of purpose while on the ISS. Like what they're doing is crucial, pushing humanity forward.
Missing what you know, but also fully invested in this incredible experience. Okay, so departure's coming up. What's going through their mind about coming back to Earth?
Honestly, they're very practical about it. They know change is constant. But with all the work in those final days, there wasn't much time to dwell on the specifics of coming home.
And the way they come back is way different than going up on the space shuttle, right?
Oh yeah, big time. Think of the shuttle landing like a plane, but steeper. Controlled glide path, brakes on a runaway. The Soyuz, it has no wings, no engines by the end, just parachutes to slow it down for landing in Kazakhstan.
This one's a little rougher. But our astronaut was actually kind of excited about it, especially after hearing Scott Kelly describe it as wilder and more fun than any amusement park ride.
That's Scott for you. It shows that adventurous spirit, but also a ton of trust in their training, the tech, their crewmates Dima and Paolo. It's a good reminder for all of us, a little excitement and trusting your prep can go a long way when facing a transition.
Those last days in orbit must have been chaotic, prepping for the Endeavour crew to arrive, then their own departure just 5 days later. Like a big family gathering, everyone rushing around.
Exactly. But the astronaut made a point to soak it all in. Those last floats through the station, the view of Earth. And they even got to photograph the docked Endeavour.
That photo's iconic, especially with the shuttle program ending.
It was a historic moment. Second to last shuttle flight. Plus, the first time a crew undocked while a shuttle was still there. Our astronaut worked with Paolo and Dima to get that shot, representing 15 nations working together.
A powerful symbol. And then the final, quiet goodbye to the ISS, one last look from the cupola. Okay, so let's talk about the trip down. The astronaut breaks down the Soyuz for us.
Right. There's the orbital module, their living space. Then the descent module, that's the capsule they ride back in, and the propulsion module with the engines. Only that middle section actually returns.
Got it. So the deorbit burn is the first big step.
Huge step. They fire the engines to slow down just enough to start dropping back into the atmosphere. It's called retrograde thrust. Once they do that, they're committed. No turning back. Kind of like making a big life decision, crossing that point of no return.
And then, boom, the other modules detach.
Gone. They burn up on re-entry, leaving the descent module protected by its heat shield. The shield goes through this process called ablation. It burns away layer by layer, protecting the crew from the intense heat. You know how a meteor burns up coming through the atmosphere? Same idea.
Which means you see chunks of burning spacecraft flying by the window. Must be a little freaky.
The astronaut thought, okay, are we going down in flames here? But Paolo was super calm, narrating everything, assuring them it's all normal, shows how important clear communication is during a stressful time.
Calming Italian commentary during a fiery reentry, that's something. Then bam, gravity's back. They start feeling the weight of their arms. Even the checklist feels heavy.
After months of weightlessness, it hits you hard. Then, the parachute deploys. Scott Kelly had warned the astronaut about this part. He said, "Cady, I'm looking right at you. You want to make sure you are not talking at chute deploy."
Sounds like Scott knew our astronaut well. It's this sudden stop, spinning, swinging.
Intense. The astronaut was glad they set a timer to be quiet. Even Paolo stopped talking for a second. But then the spinning stops, you see clouds, hear Russian voices on the radio saying, "Oh, Chav, we see you and we see the parachutes."
Viking, Viking, we see you. Reassuring. They're aiming for the landing site, hopefully avoiding a ballistic landing. What's that exactly?
Basically, a rougher, less controlled descent. Could happen if something goes wrong. Back in the early days, it could take hours to find the capsule after a ballistic landing. Thankfully, our crew had a normal one.
So they're coming in, the soft landing jets fire. Soft being relative, of course. And then thud, back on solid ground.
Yep, a thud, then that disorientation, and then the view of the Kazakhstan steppes. There's a photo of the astronaut's eye looking out the window. It perfectly captures that moment of coming back to Earth.
Wow. Home again. Okay, what happens next? How do they readjust?
First, the ground crew greets them. There's a funny moment where someone tries to carry the astronaut and clearly wasn't expecting how heavy a spacesuit is with gravity back in the picture. Then, medical checks and a bit of chaos with the bag of Earth clothes.
The donated bra story, it really makes you think about practical considerations and the need for more women astronauts.
Definitely. Physically, gravity's a big deal. Simple things like holding your head up, feel weird, balance is tough. That part of your inner ear that controls it needs to recalibrate. They often use anti-nausea meds for that.
And then there's this funny hat ceremony. They get a ceremonial velvet jacket. It's a unique welcome back.
It is a whole tradition. Then, the long trip back to the U.S., a stark contrast to orbiting Earth every 90 minutes. The astronaut talks about the pure joy of their first pizza back in Maine.
Oh, I bet. And then that reunion with family in Houston, a hug where nobody floats away.
So powerful. Scott Kelly was there to greet them too. Shows the strong bond between astronauts. Our astronaut even talks about simple things, like feeling their cat's weight on their lap, reconnecting with friends.
So physically, they bounce back pretty quick. But mentally, that seems like a longer process.
Right. The body adapts, but there's this lingering emotional distance. After being isolated with just your crewmates for so long, coming back to a busy world feels overwhelming. It's like watching life instead of being in it. Happens with lots of big transitions.
There's that story about waiting to hang up photos in the hallway until the building was empty. It shows that hesitation to jump back into the normal routine.
Yeah, and coming home to two different homes. The life before space and the life after. Plus, being separated from family for debriefings, that was an unexpected challenge. Shows that even when you plan, there can be emotional hurdles.
Not immediately feeling home with family must have been hard. Thankfully, they got back into a routine. Their son Jamie was resilient. And Jamie's journaling and photography, that's a great way to process it all.
Definitely. And the close connection with Josiah helped a lot. This astronaut's experience really connects to broader life transitions we all go through.
Like that feeling of, what now? After reaching a huge goal, the astronaut wanted to go back to space, but knew it was time for others to have that chance. That's something we can all relate to.
Exactly. What happens after the big achievement? Our astronaut found purpose helping coordinate commercial supply missions, using their unique experience.
Yeah.
So even when one chapter ends, a new, important one can begin.
And that idea that life after a big transition will be different, even if you don't know how, rings so true.
Doesn't it? The astronaut actually compared it to the pandemic.
Yeah.
Coming back to a world that's fundamentally changed.
Wow, that's insightful. And their advice to talk to others who've been through some more things, to look for those clues and signposts, so valuable. Like their expectations about the Soyuz landing based on what others had said.
Right, and being ready for what they call emotional debris during any transition. Unexpected changes are especially tough, so be kind to yourself, find ways to make the landing softer.
Love that. And that line, transitions begin with an end and end with a beginning. Such a hopeful way to look at change.
The Soyuz landing ended their mission, but it was also a fresh start on Earth, new experiences, and a new pace of life.
So to wrap up our deep dive, we saw this amazing story of returning from space, that surprising connection to their orbiting home, the wild but manageable physical adjustments, and that deeper, longer emotional process of finding their place back on Earth. But what really stands out is how these themes, endings, adaptations, new beginnings, they're universal to any big change we face.
Absolutely. So, thinking about the astronaut's experience, what emotional debris might you run into during your own transitions? And how could you be more aware of those feelings? And most importantly, be kind to yourself as you go through it. Remember, there might be some amazing new beginnings just waiting for you